Ever feel like job interviews are just like elaborate games of stump the candidate?
Oh, tell me about it.
You know those moments when they hit you with, tell me about a time you faced a difficult problem, and your mind just goes blank.
Ugh, the worst. It's like all those perfectly crafted answers you prep just fly out the window.
Totally. So, in this deep dive, we're tackling those dreaded situational interview questions head on, and we're arming you with a secret weapon, the STAR method.
Because, let's face it, nailing those tell me about a time when questions is the key to interview success.
It's about more than just listing skills on your resume, right?
Yeah.
They want to hear how you've actually used those skills in real-world situations.
Exactly. It's about showing, not just telling. Think of it like this. They want to know you can walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And that's where the STAR method comes in.
Okay, so let's break it down. STAR. What does it stand for?
It stands for situation, task, action, result. It's like a roadmap for structuring your answers so the interviewer can clearly see how you approach challenges and achieve results.
So it's like you're telling a story, right?
Exactly. A story with a beginning, a middle, and most importantly, a strong end.
I like it. So how about we dive into a real-life example to make this super practical? Imagine you're in the hot seat and the interviewer throws this at you. Tell me about a time you faced a difficult problem at work. How did you handle it?
Okay, so first things first, don't panic. Everyone's faced a challenge on the job. It's all about choosing a scenario that really lets you showcase your problem-solving skills.
Right. And Richard McMunn, in his video about acing situational interviews, gives a great example of this. He talks about dealing with negative online customer reviews, which, let's face it, can be a nightmare for any business.
Totally. And he mentions that these negative reviews were all stemming from supplier delays. Talk about a stressful situation.
So how did he even begin to tackle that? Where do you even start with a problem like that?
Well, what I find interesting is that he wasn't even directly responsible for handling supplier relations. He noticed the problem and took it upon himself to investigate. That right there speaks volumes about his initiative and his dedication to customer satisfaction.
It's like he went above and beyond without even being asked. I like that.
Right. It shows he's proactive and cares about the bigger picture.
Okay, so if we're thinking about the STAR method, the situation is the influx of bad reviews due to supplier delays.
Yeah.
He's not even responsible for suppliers, but he sees a problem and digs in. So that takes us to task. What's his goal here? What's he trying to achieve?
Well, it sounds like his initial task is to figure out what's going on, why these delays are happening, and how they're impacting customers. It's about gathering information and understanding the scope of the problem before jumping into solution mode.
Right, so for the action part of STAR, he could talk about how he contacted unhappy customers directly. I mean, that takes guts, but it also shows he's not afraid to address the issue head on.
Totally. And even more importantly, he's showing empathy. He's acknowledging their frustration and taking ownership, even though it wasn't directly his fault. That goes a long way with customers.
And it shows he's thinking about solutions, not just placing blame.
Exactly. He mentions actually researching new suppliers who could deliver on time and meet their quality standards. So he's not just putting a Band-Aid on the problem, he's looking for long-term solutions.
Which brings us to the result. What happened because of his actions?
Well, he found a reliable supplier, customer satisfaction went up, and the negative reviews died down. He took a potentially disastrous situation and turned it into a positive outcome.
See, using the STAR method, you've crafted a compelling story that showcases your skills and your value. It's not just a random anecdote. It's a powerful example of your problem-solving abilities in action.
Exactly. And that's what makes the STAR method so effective. It helps you connect the dots for the interviewer and show them what you're truly capable of.
All right, let's imagine you've aced the first few interview questions, you're feeling good, and then they hit you with this classic. Give me an example of a time you had to meet a tight deadline. How did you ensure you met it?
Oh yeah, the pressure cooker question. This one's a favorite because it reveals a lot about how you handle stress, how you prioritize tasks. Can you actually deliver under pressure?
Right, because everyone's wired differently. Some people thrive under pressure, some people, well, not so much.
Exactly, and that's what they're trying to figure out with this question, right? Are you the kind of person who rises to the occasion or crumbles under the weight of a deadline?
Okay, so let's say, you're drawing a blank. You're thinking, ugh, deadlines, they're all a blur. Where's my stress baking when I need it? What's a good example to use for this one?
Well, Richard McMunn, he actually shares a pretty relatable scenario in his video. He talks about a time when he needed critical information from a colleague to finish a project, but the colleague was on leave.
Oh, talk about bad timing.
You're right. And to make matters worse, the deadline was the end of the day.
So the clock is ticking. The pressure's on. If we're using the SCAR method, the situation is he needs this information, his colleague's unavailable, and the deadline is looming. What next?
Well, the task is pretty clear-cut. He's got to find a way to get that information and get the project done, and all of that has to happen before the day ends.
So what does he do? Does he just sit there refreshing his inbox hoping for a miracle?
I wish it were that easy, Ray. But no, he actually shows some serious resourcefulness here. He mentions using Stack Overflow. Have you ever used that?
I've heard of it. It's like a Q&A site for developers, right?
Exactly. It's a goldmine of information.
Hmm.
And he actually manages to find a potential solution there, which shows, one, he's proactive, and two, he knows where to look for answers.
So he's not just sitting around waiting for someone to spoon-feed him the answer. He's taking charge.
Exactly. And get this, he even takes it a step further. To be extra sure, he hires a freelance developer on Upwork, like for a super quick consultation, just to confirm he's on the right track.
Wow, so he's demonstrating initiative, problem-solving skills. He's comfortable using technology and delegating when he needs to. That's impressive.
Right. He's not afraid to pull out all the stops to get the job done. And the best part,
He meets the deadline.
he does. He totally pulls it off. But, it's not enough to just say you met the deadline. He really emphasizes that it was his actions, being resourceful, double-checking his work, all of that led to a successful outcome.
And that's what they want to hear. They want to see that you understand how your actions contribute to positive results. So it's not just, oh yeah, I got it done. It's more like, because I did this, this, and this, I was able to achieve this.
Exactly. You're painting a picture of yourself as someone who's reliable, resourceful, and able to handle pressure. That's goal in an interviewer's book.
It's like they say, pressure makes diamonds. Okay, I'm feeling inspired. Ready to tackle another common interview question.
Bring it on. I'm feeling unstoppable now.
All right, deep divers, buckle up, because we're about to navigate a question that often sends chills down candidate spines. Tell me about a time you failed.
Oh, yeah. This one can feel like a trap.
Right. It's like, do they really want to hear about the time I accidentally hit reply all or spilled coffee on my keyboard?
Well, those could be funny stories, but probably not the best choice for an interview.
Okay, so how do we handle this one? Do we just pretend we've never made a simple mistake? Like, me, fail, never heard of her.
Right, because that totally comes across as genuine and relatable.
Okay, maybe not the best strategy. So how do we turn this interview landmine into a winning moment?
Well, Richard McMunn makes a really good point in his video. He says trying to avoid the question altogether or pretending you have a perfect track record can actually hurt you more. It makes you seem, well, a little too perfect.
So honesty is the best policy.
It is, even when it comes to our less than stellar moments. But remember, it's not just about confessing your failures, it's about showing what you learned from them and how you grew.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's say, you're racking your brain trying to think of a good example. What kind of failure should you even talk about?
Well, Richard McMunn actually gives a relatable example in his video. He talks about a time when he was tasked with boosting social media engagement for his company. But his initial efforts, they didn't exactly set the internet on fire.
We've all been there trying to crack the social media code.
Totally. And that's what makes it a good example. It's relatable, and it allows you to showcase your willingness to experiment, learn, and adapt.
Okay, so if we're using the STAR method, the situation is he's tasked with this important project, but his initial efforts fall short. So what's the task here? What does he need to figure out?
Well, he needs to understand why his approach wasn't working. Was he targeting the wrong audience? Was the content just not engaging? It's about analyzing the situation and identifying areas for improvement.
Okay, so he's not just throwing in the towel and saying, well, social media is not my thing. He's digging deeper.
Exactly. He's demonstrating a growth mindset. And for the action part, he mentions using tools like Google Trends to see what his target audience was actually searching for. He even experimented with ChatGPT to, brainstorm more creative content ideas.
So he's not just randomly trying things. He's being strategic and utilizing resources.
Exactly. And what's the result? Well, he learned from his mistakes, he adapted his approach, and ultimately he was able to increase engagement and even generate new leads for the business. He turned a failure into a valuable learning experience.
That's awesome. It's like sometimes you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward.
Exactly. Failure can be a powerful teacher if you let it.
Okay, I'm ready for another interview curveball. Hit me.
All right, how about this one? Tell me about a time you improved a process.
Hmm, that one seems pretty straightforward, but I'm guessing there's more to it than meets the eye, right?
You bet. It's all about showing you're observant, proactive, and always looking for ways to make things better.
So what's a good situation to use for this one?
Richard McMunn shares an experience that's super relevant to anyone who's worked in a growing company. He talks about how, as his previous company expanded, they started running into communication breakdowns. Projects were getting delayed, tasks were slipping through the cracks, chaos ensued.
Been there. It's like everyone's speaking a different language.
Totally. And that's what makes this a good example as a common problem. And it allows you to showcase your ability to identify a need and implement a solution.
Okay, so the situation is communication is breaking down, things are getting messy. What's the task? What's his goal in all of this?
Well, his task is to figure out a way to improve communication, streamline workflows, bring some order to the chaos.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
So what does he do? Does he just start yelling louder?
Tempting, but probably not the most effective strategy.
Definitely not.
He actually took a very systematic approach. He started by researching different project management tools. He wanted to find something that could help them centralize communication and keep everyone on the same page.
Okay, so points for initiative and for recognizing that sometimes you need to bring in the big guns, tech-wise, to solve a problem.
Absolutely. And he actually highlights a tool that a lot of people are familiar with, Evernote. Have you ever used that?
Yeah, it's a lifesaver. You can use it for, like, everything. Notes, to-do lists, projects. It's amazing.
Exactly. And that's what's great about it. It's versatile and it can be adapted to different workflows. But it's not just about the tool itself, it's about the process he went through to implement it.
Right, because you can't just drop a new tool on people's laps and expect them to magically know how to use it. So how did he roll it out?
Well, instead of just springing it on everyone, he actually took the time to really learn the ins and outs of Evernote himself. He created like a mock-up of how it could be used to improve their specific workflows. And then he presented his findings to the team, highlighted the potential benefits, addressed any concerns they had.
So he's not just saying, hey, use this.
Yeah.
He's really championing it and getting buy-in from the team.
Exactly. And that's what makes a difference and the result. Well, Evernote was successfully implemented, communication improved significantly, and projects ran more smoothly. He identified a problem, took initiative, and implemented a solution that had a real impact.
Okay, that's a great example. It shows he's not afraid to roll up his sleeves and make things better.
Exactly. And that's what interviewers want to see, right? They want to know you're not just going to sit back and wait for someone else to fix things. You're willing to step up and make a difference.
All right, ready for one last question before we wrap things up?
Hit me with it.
All right. Let's imagine the interviewer says, tell me about a time you had to adapt to a significant change at work.
The adaptability question. This one's crucial, especially in today's constantly evolving workplace. Companies need people who can roll with the punches, learn new things, and thrive in the face of change.
It's like if you're not adaptable, you're like a dinosaur waiting for the meteor to hit.
Pretty much. So what's a good example to use for this one?
Well, Richard McMunn talks about a situation that a lot of people have probably experienced. A new manager with a completely different leadership style than you're used to.
Oh, I've been there. It's like learning to navigate a whole new world.
Exactly. And it can be tough, right? Because you have to adjust your way of working your communication style.
It's a real test of your ability to be flexible and open-minded.
So using the STAR method, the situation is pretty clear. New boss, new rules, new challenges. What's the task in this scenario? What's his goal?
Well, his task is to adapt. He needs to figure out how to work effectively with this new manager, understand their expectations, and make sure he's still contributing to the team's success.
Okay, so how does he do that? What action does he take?
Well, he mentions that one of the first things he did was set up a one-on-one meeting with the new manager, just to kind of get to know them better, understand their vision, their communication style.
Okay, so points for being proactive and trying to build a relationship.
Right, communication is key in those situations. And he didn't stop there. He made sure to take detailed notes during meetings, ask clarifying questions. He was really paying attention and making an effort to understand the new expectations.
So he's not just going through the motions, he's actively trying to learn and adapt.
Exactly. And that's what they want to see. And the result, well, he was able to build a strong working relationship with the new manager. The team continued to perform well, and the transition ended up being successful.
That's a win-win. You know, it strikes me that one of the most valuable takeaways from all of these examples is that it's not just about having the right answers. It's about showcasing your thought process.
Totally. They want to see how you think, how you approach challenges, how you learn from your mistakes.
It's about telling your story in a way that highlights your strengths and your potential.
Exactly. And the STAR method gives you the framework to do that effectively.
And remember, practice makes perfect. So think about your own experiences. Jot down some notes. Rehearse your stories. The more you practice using the STAR method, the more confident and natural you'll become.
Absolutely. You've got this.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into acing those situational interview questions using the STAR method. We hope you found these tips helpful. Remember, the key is to showcase your skills and experiences in a way that's clear, concise, and compelling.
And don't forget to be yourself. Let your personality shine through.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you in the next episode with more insights and tips to help you navigate the ever-changing world of work.